Let me get this correct today, because if I hold my camera the other way, then my phone is going to get absolutely destroyed today. So you'll excuse me if there's you see some close-ups of my hand, but again, like I say, trying to protect the phone today. Right. Oh. Well, you join me today on what is a very, very wet, very, very wet day today. Oh. Bayek, it's wet. It's absolutely booking it down. Can't even say it. It's booking it down today. Absolutely. Good morning, Jean. Good morning for you from Hamburg. Good morning. Oh. So, like I say, good morning to you. Welcome to you all. It's very, very wet today. No signs of the ponies yet, unfortunately, because I know that's where a lot of you come. But I think they might have been taken in today, because it is literally according to my weather app today, 100% chance of rain up until about 2 o'clock today. Then it changes to about 94% from then on, and stays around about that for the rest of the day. So it is going to be absolutely tipping it down today. Tom, you're getting the new Resident Evil today. Good shots for that. Like I say, it does look really good, to be honest. Yes, I was on Max's live stream chat last night. So me and Max might be doing at some point a live reaction to Jeff Taylor at some point. Yep, like I say, it's not all bad news for the local elections. In fact, we'll start with that. As someone's just said there, Labour have kept power in the Synod, which is the Welsh devolved government bodybuilding. And that's good, to be honest. That is ultimately very good. Like I say, we're still getting the results in. I think it's going to be Monday, I think, before we still know the full picture of what happened. Oh, morning from Dusseldorf. The best morning programme. Excellent, love it. Well, like I say, it's absolutely tipping it down today. Absolutely tipping it down today. I almost called it off. And to be honest, if Hartlepool hadn't happened yesterday, I probably would have called it off today. But we need to talk about this. Even when I realise, yes, I do have a studio set up, so I could have done this. From my new studio, but never mind. Oh, good morning from Pogmore in Barnsley. Good morning to you. Oh, like I say, you probably know how bad the rain is, and like I say, I'm out here doing this. Oh, like I say, but this is it. This is the good morning walk. So, as always, like I say, continuing with the good news. If you're looking for a story of what's being called as Super Thursday here in the UK for probably the first time ever, the story beyond, obviously, Labour losing Hartlepool, which, don't worry, we will get into today, is that predominantly, from what we can see, and what I highly suspected, were that independents have obviously suffered during the coronavirus, but on the upside to that, we are seeing Conservatives lose positions, not to Labour of all things, but we are seeing the Lib Dems and the Greens pick up seats, not only just from the Conservative Party, but the Tory Party as well. So it does generally look like that the other story that I think will develop from yesterday, from Labour's very, very catastrophic defeat, shall we say, in Hartlepool, will be that the Greens and Lib Dems have massively picked up seats. I already know that Sheffield Council has flipped to being a Lib Dem controlled council, so that will be interesting. Oh, good morning from New York there, good morning to you. And like I say, it still continues to tip it down. Like I say, ooh, I've got my phone turned the other way today so that the case can act as a bit of a shield. Good morning, FSM. Good morning. Good morning to you all. Woo. So yeah, this is going to be, I think it's going to be, like I say, it's going to be Monday. It's going to be Monday, I think, before we know the full picture. I love the full picture of what's going to happen. Yes, bringing it in the rain. Like I say, I was always going to call it off today because the rain is absolutely, I don't know how much you can tell from the camera, but it's absolutely tipping it down. Absolutely tipping it down. And my hand holding the phone is already gone cold. Now let's change over a bit. So, yeah, in terms of the local elections, we're still waiting really for the full results to come in. Ultimately, oh, thank you very much, Minnie. Good morning from Germany. Have decent weather despite Hartlepool. Good. I'm glad you do there. Because I think I'm going to have to find tree cover somewhere and just dip in. This won't be such a good morning walk today. It's more a good morning from under the trees in a bit, because it is absolutely tipping it down. Oh. So I even wrote points today. So I came up with 6 points as to why Labour's did end up losing Hartlepool, but nevertheless it's obviously bad news in terms of that. But like I say, on the local council election front, it looks like so far Labour haven't lost control of councils. It does look like there has been more acceptance of Green Party candidates and Liberal Democrat candidates. And I think that mainly comes down to the fact that I think a lot of people, mainly Conservatives, were slightly put off by Boris, so they decided to vote Lib Dem. I think there's also been some defection on Labour's left to voting Green and Lib Dem. I think that'll be another story of of this particular election when it comes out. Like I say, we're just going to have to wait and see to get the full picture, but does seem to be what the full picture of it is. But yeah, Hartlepool. Well, actually, before we get on to Hartlepool, we'll quickly discuss our Napoleonic adventures in France. Morning. Glad to see I'm not the only one braving the rain today. Ooh. So, as we saw on Thursday, the government decided that it was going to send gunboats to try and sort out essentially what should be a diplomatic task. In fact, this was really the big story in the UK, but I think a lot of Europeans are going to be very confused, maybe even other, shall we say, non-UK people who are watching the stream, because they're going to be like, wait, what happened? You sent gunboats to Jersey. Why on earth did you send gunboats to Jersey? Well, this did indeed make for some fantastic fodder for the right-wing press. But overall, this was a big nothing burger. This was a big nothing burger that was caused by the UK government. Because you see, Jersey is a crown dependency, meaning that while it is technically part of the UK, it also isn't. Meaning that it has its own government, it can make its own rules and laws, and in particular, it's blowing right in my face. Oh. I'm getting absolutely soaked. This. Oh, this was not the morning to do this. Why, Hartlepool? Why did you do this to me? Oh. So overall, this is, like I say, it's a big nothing burger. Because the Jersey government, essentially, while also technically not in the EU, also had its own agreement with France. But because of Brexit, this agreement that they had with France became null and void. And as a result, the UK government then started to decide that it would be the ones to enforce new bizarre rules and red tape on putting fishing licenses for the French. And like I say, it was these new rules are like completely unfair, and designed very specifically to target French boats. So you can understand why these French are so upset, because they had fished in these waters very well and gotten on very well with the locals over in Jersey. And so as a result, they had their own agreement. But like I said, because of Brexit, this agreement then became null and void. And as a result, the French got really annoyed, so they said, okay, we're going to have a one-day protest and we're just going to blockade the port. That's all it was. It was a massive nothing burger. And by the way, they didn't actually blockade the port. This was, again, played very much up by the UK media. And of course, everyone was talking about that wonderful 18th century policy that the UK had of war with France. And of course, tougher sentences for geography teachers. For anyone who gets that Blackadder reference. But indeed, that was pretty much what the Mail, the Express were all talking about. And it made us look absolutely foolish. Absolutely foolish on a world stage. As much of Brexit already has. So we're now getting to a point where we're having to consider dusting off the shelf of these bizarre policies that are, well, quite frankly bizarre. You know, reenacting the Battle of Trafalgar, I think, was thrown around a lot. But as John Bercow said, if anyone thinks that sending these gunboats, to the Channel was nothing but a political stunt, then he said you are a fool, because that's indeed what it was. It was a very well timed political stunt by Boris. And it gets even better when you think that our new destroyers are being built in France by a French company. Oh, some relief. Oh. Greetings from the West Coast. Greetings. You join me like I say, welcome to all the welcome to a very, very wet good morning walk. In fact, this is as far as I'm going to walk today. But don't worry, I will still be streaming with you. We just won't be moving from this spot because I am absolutely... I've just leaned forward and literally the rain is literally pouring off me still. So this only hasn't upset Jersey, French fishermen. This has also upset the Jersey fishermen as well, because they had a very good system going with France. They had their own deal, and yet Brexit essentially wiped it out, and they feel like they've been used as pawns. In fact, many of them actually said, and you won't be surprised that a couple of them were not quoted by the right-wing press, basically saying, if this were happening to us, we'd be out there as well. Also, we feel like we should also be out there as well. And this has also resulted in talks of maybe Jersey should actually join France. So that was... Hold on, I'm still in the rain. Let's try over here. see if it's any better under here. Oh, slightly better. Oh, that's yeah, slightly better. Slightly better, but not too much better. Oh, at least I can lean back some point on here. Just casually lean. So that was essentially the Brexit news, really, this week. And it makes us look absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it makes us absolutely ridiculous on this, on so many levels. You know, I genuinely can't believe it, but I have to, because it really happened. It's just like, what on earth? What on earth, Boris? But again, this was a fantastic publicity stunt for Boris, you know, because, oh, look, he's standing up to, he's standing up to the EU. You know, isn't Boris good? So let's talk about Hartlepool. However, before we talk into Hartlepool, I want to reiterate, it hasn't been all that bad across, as of yet, the local election areas. Like I say, we're still waiting for the full results to come in. And it does appear so far, from what we can tell, at the time of me knowing the current situation, it doesn't look like so far that Labour have lost control of any of the councils that they were in control of. So at the moment, things are going well. Obviously, we lost the by-election. That was bad. But so far in the local council elections, things aren't bad. But the other story I want to reiterate that is beyond, obviously, Labour losing Hartlepool is the fact that Greens and Lib Dems have been picking up seats, not only just from Labour, but from the Conservatives as well. So ultimately, I think this will lead to a big increase in Green and Lib Dems sitting on councils. As I said before, Sheffield has gone over to control of the Lib Dems. That's, as far as I know, the only big news and big council that they have picked up. Like I say, news is still incoming. Obviously, coronavirus, a big factor as to why some of these are so slow. So, Hartlepool. What a mess. What an absolute mess. I'm sorry, but there's no two ways about it. Hartlepool has been an absolute, unmitigated, complete and utter disaster. And here I am, of all things, agreeing with Peter Mandelson. I know it's shocking, but he said, and I quote, I don't know if I'll get the quote exactly right, but he said, Labour should have never have sent an MP out naked. And that's pretty much what happened. You had an MP that was campaigning in a town, in a very, very critical big by-election, a very big first test, really, for any new political leader. And that MP had absolutely nothing to talk about. He couldn't talk about any Labour policies because there were none. Keir Starmer hadn't put any out, and hence he had nothing to talk about. He had absolutely nothing to talk about. That is truly shocking. I mean, imagine sending an MP out to campaign and not giving them anything to talk about. It's really, really, really is shocking. It really is shocking. But that's essentially what happened. And, you know, I've been saying, how many times on these good morning walks, how many times have I been saying Starmer needs to actually start? Let's see if we can rest it on there. There we go. That's good. How many times have I been saying Starmer needs to start putting out policy on these walks? I must have said this almost every single Saturday for well over a year at this point. Well over a year. So, I did my homework last night. I did my homework on the Hartlepool. And essentially, I've come up with 6 points that I think are the main reason why we lost Hartlepool. And I've even written them down because I didn't want to forget them. So, first of all, we really have to talk about the vaccine bounce. This is an actual thing. Lots and lots of people are exactly excited about the fact that soon their lives will be turning to normal. They are happy that the vaccines are rolling out across Hartlepool, across the UK, and they are happy that there is a plan to get out of lockdown. We cannot deny that the vaccine bounce has absolutely been a boost to Hartlepool and in Boris. Because if you saw some of the interviews with the Hartlepool MP, the two things she was mentioning were mainly vaccine rollout and, oh look, we're getting Brexit done. And we'll get onto that issue in a bit. But yes, the vaccine rollout has been a big bounce for Boris. That is a real thing, and we cannot deny that fact. And that is a real thing. Like I say, won't last forever. But, you know, it's a thing, and we've got to acknowledge about the fact that did play a part into Hartlepool's, into the Tory win. We cannot deny that. So, 2, I've got down. Johnson and the Tories, especially Johnson, are good and able to get their way across that is really communicatable. And essentially I wrote it down as Johnson is a master storyteller. Yeah, I agree that the NHS did do good on the vaccine rollout, but doesn't stop the Tories claiming that. Doesn't stop the Tories claiming that at all. Because if you ask many people, the NHS is the government. So, yeah, of course, Johnson's going to take credit for it. Like I say, the only reason it's going so well is because Johnson and his government have had nothing to do with it. It has been NHS and army logistics that have been heavily involved in the vaccine rollout. And like I say, it doesn't matter. Johnson can take credit for it. So, Johnson really is a good public speaker. That is undeniable. If you've ever heard any of the stories about Boris Johnson, he is an incredibly good public speaker. And using this ability, he is able to literally go anywhere at any time and fire off a good speech. Starmer, unfortunately, is not. Now, he is able, though, Starmer is able to do some absolutely amazing cross-examinations in the House of Commons and at PMQs, does a fantastic job. Let's give credit where credit is due to Starmer, because he does deserve some credit. Not all the credit, of course, but, you know, it's some. Let's be fair. So, ultimately, Boris Johnson is very good at communicating and telling his story, and cooperatively telling what is the Tory story, haha, for the UK. He's able to spin the yarn of, oh look, Brexit isn't getting done, but oh look, we're getting on with Brexit, even though, as you fully know, if you follow my channel, there is practically daily news from every industry in the UK. Things aren't going well. That things are not going well. But he's able to tell a fantastic story, and he's able to tell a story of Britain for hope. And ultimately, if you track a lot of what Conservative voters, they are for Boris because he is giving them hope. And ultimately that comes down to his ability to be able to give a really good, being able to give a good story. Unfortunately, Starmer can't do that. Starmer, in interviews and when he seems to be alive, does not seem to be able to get across that ability to be able to tell that story. And that is a big mistake for him. But this is all part of Starmer not being able to set out a vision for the future of the UK. And it all comes back to Starmer had no policies. So because Starmer had no policies, he was not able to set out an alternative vision for Britain. And that ultimately is the second point of why it doesn't play, and one of my 6 points why it doesn't play. So the third one, Brexit land. I literally wrote down Brexit values. It is undeniable that Hartlepool voted overwhelmingly for Brexit. And at the last general election in 2019, we saw essentially the vote being split between the Conservatives on one side and the Brexit Party on the other. And essentially, again, the big story of Hartlepool of that night was that all the Brexit Party voters, all the UKIP voters, changed their votes over to Tory. Because the prevailing wisdom in Hartlepool is that just like anyone who got conned into buying something bad or purchasing a bad product, we are still in the hope and denial phase of this con. So the voters of Hartlepool, some of them, a lot of them, are emotionally attached to Boris because he is selling them Brexit. And because of that, the people in Hartlepool, a lot of them, mainly even former Tory voters who voted for Brexit, not that former Labour voters who voted for Brexit, wanted to make sure that they are getting that thing that they wanted. And unfortunately, this idea of getting Brexit done could potentially come in to playing out at the next general election. And like I say, we know if you follow my channel or if you follow Brexit news, you know Brexit is far from done. You also know that the Tories kicked very significant customs checks and checks at the UK border to October and March or April of next year, thus stopping a lot of the chaos that we know that's going on. So at the moment, the UK is an absolute smuggler's paradise. You know, if this was normal times, and if you lived down south near the tunnel and the crossing, I would be massively advocating for you to go across the channel and start doing what we used to call white van runs, where you grab a load of booze and then bring it back into the UK and then make a profit on what you're selling. And you won't be surprised that many businesses out there that do import wine and beers started off as booze cruisers. And as a result, you know, some of those now actually are legitimate businesses, and some of them are actually some of the ones thinking maybe we need to resort back to becoming the illegal businesses that we were. Which I know, kind of shocking, but again, that's the bizarre state that we are in. So, Hartlepool ultimately, and I think like many places, is still committed to this idea of they have to vote Tory because they are, quote unquote, getting Brexit done. And it's very, very much a question of time how long this factor still comes into play. It's very evident that in this by-election, that was still a factor. It was a factor in the 2019 general elections because Boris made it a Brexit election. How much it will play at the next general election in 2024 or 2025, whenever it gets called, we don't know. Will it still be a factor then? There will be a lot of more consequences because obviously the Tories cannot keep pushing these checks down the road. We have seen in the Norway disastrous negotiations that the Tories do not intend to go back and talk to the EU until 2022. So, like I say, there have been absolutely no talks between the UK and the EU so far this year because they just do not want to talk to them. Like I say, this year is all about trying to prove that they got Brexit done and that it is over and that it is sorted and that, oh look, we can now get on with this brand new agenda of essentially free market fundamentalism and, you know, get ready for the austerity, even though Boris is trying to convince voters that his party has changed. And again, it has not changed. And one of the, if you saw the video on Friday about Hartlepool, one of the interesting prevailing attitudes in Hartlepool at the moment is that the voters are going, okay, we voted Tory for the very first time, now give us our money. You promised us money, now give us it. And as a result, I don't think the people of Hartlepool are really ready for what it means. The other interesting thing, by the way, I think we're still waiting on, I don't know if it's happened yet, we're still waiting on the results for the local elections round Hartlepool. Oh, FSM, thank you for that support there, for the Rum and Coke Fund. Thank you very much. So we're still waiting on those results because it would be fascinating. It would be very fascinating if, like much of the current situations in the Red Wall, obviously, again, still waiting on the results, while many of the areas voted for a Conservative MP, many of the local councils are still held by Labour or Lib Dems, which worries continuously many of those new, quote, Tory new Northern MPs. So we're going to have to wait to see how that situation plays out. So number 4 really comes down to demographics. It very, very much appears that not only just in Hartlepool, but one of the core voting blocks for Labour, the white working class, and lots of other Labour voters, and we'll get that into a moment because that's another point, that they did not... Oh, thank you very much, Nico. I better go home with a coffee. I definitely will be getting something warm after this. So, for the cyanide funds. That's bad, son of Viking. That's very bad. I should not be encouraging that type of talk. But yeah. But yeah, it is very clear that the white working class voters in Hartlepool did not come out and support Labour. So far, that does seem to be the big turning point. Not only did they not come out and support Labour, because as we have seen, if you saw the little poll that I posted yesterday, no one knew what Labour was for. They didn't even know what policies were, and that obviously comes down to Keir Starmer because he's the leader, and obviously he topped that poll. Not only that, we also saw that many of those Labour voters did also switch their vote to Tory for the first time, because, as I said, there is a prevailing attitude in Hartlepool that we voted Tory, so now give us our money. And I think this, I can't say it for 100% certain, but I do wonder if that will be, or at least seems to be, the prevailing attitude for much of the other seats that voted Tory for the first time. It will be interesting to see. So that is, again, that's my fourth point. You'll have to excuse me because my paper's now getting wet. So anyway, before we get on to my fourth point, thank you all for joining me on this very. I'll flip the camera around so you can see the rain. Nope, hang on. There we go. So I don't know if you can see how hard the rain's coming down on the camera, but it is still absolutely tipping it down. So thank you very much for joining me on this on this walk today. Like I say, please do hit that like button. It does help out the stream, and of course the share button as well does help out massively. Then of course down below there are links to my Patreon page if you'd like to support the channel that way, and of course there is the one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And like I say, thank you to everyone who does support the channel that way. So that is a bit of my shilling over, and like I say, I will be absolutely getting some form of warm drink when I get in, because my hands are absolutely freezing. So like I say, we'll just go quickly over some of the points that we've gone over already. So first point, the vaccine bounce. Absolutely undeniable. Lots of people are supporting the Tories because they are happy about how the vaccine rollout is going, even though Johnson is basically just claiming credit for it. 2, Johnson is a master storyteller. Johnson is basically, has the ability to be able to articulate his vision for Britain, even though it's not necessarily what the Tories intend on actually doing. Like I say, it's just for how long will people buy Boris's lies on that. Number 3, Brexit values. The people of Hartlepool are still addicted to the idea of getting their Brexit. So, of course, got a doggo joining us, I think, soon. So they are absolutely still obsessed with the idea of getting Brexit done, and of course they're still going to vote Tory for that. Number 4, the main core for Hartlepool voters basically did not turn out. Shocking, but I know, there you go. So, number 5, Labour's coalitions of voters, because everyone knows that the left in the UK is incredibly... Got a couple of dogs. Hang on. Oh. Show you the doggos. There you go. There you go. Nope. Show you some more. Nope. Morning. Yeah, you see, that's why I should have bought an umbrella. But yeah, so like I say, it's very wet today. Welcome, Cthulonic. I think that's how you say it. Hopefully, ahoy to you. So, Labour's coalitions, especially on the left, are so fragmented at this moment, and especially you saw it yesterday, where both the Blairites and the left on Labour are absolutely going like cats and dogs at each other. But that is the absolute truth to it. They are going at each other like, you know, left and right. So as a result, the coalitions around Labour at the moment are not that 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 well built, and we've seen. Oh, hang on a second. Just get rid of. There we go. Just getting rid of a lot of the water that was on my top of my phone. So yeah, we still have a problem on the left of Labour that they still do not understand that if you want a better future for the UK, if you want a more progressive future, then you have to join Labour and get involved with the Labour Party, because like in America at the moment with Joe Biden, oh my word, if you saw Joe Biden's electoral speech, it's not his electoral speech, his State of the Union, oh my word, a US president, a US Democratic president came out and said that trickle-down economics has not worked and that they need to build out their economy from the bottom out. Imagine for a second if Keir Starmer went out and said that. I would be absolutely 100% applauding him. And unfortunately, a lot of the people on the Labour left are obsessed with this idea that they left the Labour Party as a sense of punishment over electing Keir Starmer, and because they're not in the Labour Party at the moment, they cannot help affect the direction that Labour is going. That is why I joined Labour, because I want to help affect the party in the direction the party is going. And like I say, at the moment, proportional representation. Every naysayer said that you'll never get more than 80 local Labour parties to support it. As of this moment, we are over 212, I believe the last count was, of local Labour parties. No, actually not. Yeah, 212 supporting changing our voting system from first past the post to proportional representation. That is amazing. And that shows that we can have an effect. That will come into play at the next Labour conference, ultimately. And Johnson's coalitions, on the other hand, are absolutely rock solid. What are Johnson's coalitions? Well, at the moment, it's the former Brexit Party voters and also the UKIP voters. I suppose you can fix them into one. But essentially, at the moment, his coalitions are rock solid. So he's always going to have an almost guaranteed turnout. And we've got to really be worrying at the next general election of how much the Brexit Party not being there and the and UKIP being there are going to affect the elections. And ultimately, this does make the case for creating a progressive alliance. So my final point, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to cut it short today because I am absolutely soaking wet. My hands are freezing cold. So my final point is, I wrote it down as long Corbyn, long Miliband, and Blair denial. So here's the thing, Blair denial. Ultimately, I do not agree with a lot of the points that the Blairites make. I do not agree with the direction they would want to put the party, but I do agree with the point that technically they are the most successful Labour government we have had. Might not be an agreeable thing that a lot of people say, but it is unfortunately the factual case. Like it or not, that's the unfortunate fact. We've got to live with it. So the fact that the Blairites are demanding and saying that they're the winners, Hartlepool has proven them wrong, that they aren't winners. Remember, the strategy that Starmer seemed to go with was that Blairite faction, and they have shown that they are not winners. This has proven them wrong. And as a result, there is going to be, I think, where we saw Labour civil war behind the closed doors last time, I think we will see open civil war in the Labour Party. How long it's going to last, I do not know. But remember, the people who wanted Corbyn out so much, when it came to Corbyn's first by-election, which he won, very easily, by the way, said that if he lost that, they were going to challenge him for leadership and try and get him out. Well, he won I believe Corbyn won all his by-elections. I don't think he lost a single one. Not only that, he won them with some very comfortable majorities. So there has to be a coming together of all these factions, of the Corbynites, Momentum, the Blairites, all have to come together, and we all have to essentially rebuild Labour from the ground up. And that is a thing that we have to do. They have to understand that. We have to rebuild Labour from the ground up. We have to be able to offer... Labour has to offer a new vision for Britain. If it can't, then the next elections are going to be just as bad as they were in 2019. And then the Blairites will be really proved wrong, even though they're trying to deny, they're trying to blame it on Corbyn still. Like I say, it doesn't really wash. Starmer's been in power for quite some time, doesn't really wash. So overall, those are my 6 points. Thank you, Conservator, to get dry and warm again. Thank you very much. But those are my 6 points on Hartlepool. I think more will come out in the coming days, but those are my analysis as to why I think Labour lost. Ultimately, it does come down to the fact of Keir Starmer losing, and Keir Starmer being overwhelmingly incredibly bad, to be honest, by not putting out policies, because, as I said at the beginning of this, to quote Peter Mandelson, Labour sent out an MP completely naked to campaign. He had nothing to say, whereas the Conservative MP could constantly talk about getting Brexit done and the vaccine rollout, about how good and how well that was going. And that showed in her first couple of interviews. Well, thing is, Patrick, the Blairites were pushing for no policies. They were the ones saying that it was too soon to be rolling out policies. So ultimately, this is their election strategy. They were the ones who were saying that now we're back in charge, we can win. And essentially what they got was, what they did was power without purpose. They achieved power in the Labour Party, but they had absolutely no purpose to do with that power. Congratulations, you've got your guy in. Now what? And it was just automatically assumed that if they got back in, they got back with Starmer in, they would be able to win. So that's really sums up Hartlepool in a nutshell. And I'm sure there will be more commentary to come this week. Like I say, I'm sure we will go over it. But like I say, hang on, let me just put my very wet paper away now. Look at it. It's like, ugh. This is so difficult with my cold hands. There we go. Oh, so absolutely, thank you so much for joining me on this very, very cold morning. And like I say, Nicole, you are right. Labour cannot afford a civil war. We cannot afford a civil war because it will take too long to fight. And by then, the next general election will have been and gone. And if Labour succumbs to a civil war, it will not go well. It will not end well. All sides have to agree to come together to agree a new direction for the Labour Party. That is the only direction they will win for the next general election. Only way. So like I say, thank you. Yeah, enjoyed the morning lurk under a tree. Yeah, true. That is true. That's what it turned out to be. Thank you all for joining me on this absolutely incredibly rainy day. Like I say, I think I'm literally going to go back and get under the covers and turn up the heating and warm myself. Like I say, please do hit that like button on your way out. And like I say, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link as well where you can buy me a coffee. So thank you to everyone who does support me that way. And as always, have an absolutely safe weekend. If you can't be safe, be sensible. Have a wonderful weekend. Go out and enjoy yourselves if you can, although I don't think you'll be indoor activities. Indoor activities, I think, today. So yeah, go and enjoy yourself. I'm going to go back home and get warm. Like I say, thank you all for joining me. Stay tuned for more videos this week. Obviously, we'll be covering the fallout from Hartlepool, and of course, as usual, more Brexit news. And of course, we'll see you next week, hopefully, for a proper good morning walk, rather than this lurk under a tree, and hopefully it won't be that cold. So, we'll see you all then.